But in a situation where you find that a person
not necessarily tribal or religious.
I am saying that.
Welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, and well, now it's time for us to take a look at the front pages of the newspapers to see what they have this morning. Well, as usual, we're starting with the Daily Trust, and it carries this major headline: Why Kaduna train attackers invaded Kuje prison. And it comes with these riders: Target police formation, Kainji, Niger prisons. ISWAP claims attack. Actionable intelligence ignored, 2 police officers nabbed for complicity. And I'm disappointed with our intelligence system, says Buhari. Northern elders don lash at president over Senegal trip. That is the major headline on the front page of the Daily Trust. Moving down the page, intrigues trail 5 discos shake-up as firms kick. And other stories here: gunmen invade NYC lodge in Anambra, rape women. The story can be found on page 6. Community policing, 10,000 recruits to be deployed to own local government areas, says the Inspector General of Police. Ekiti man bags life for raping 85-year-old stepmom. That story can be found on page 17. If we move to the top half of the page, tributes as OPEC boss Barikindo buried in Adamawa. That story can be found on page 24. PTAD pays 17.73 billion naira pension liabilities. And Katsina mourns courageous police officer ACP Umar. Details of that story can be found on page 3. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Moving on now to the Guardian newspaper. The flagship has the major headline this morning. It's Buhari decries poor intelligence at Kuje prison break, demands probe. Defense minister confirms 64 Boko Haram suspect escaped. Kaduna train attackers likely behind Kuje prison invasion. Gumi spokesman says soldiers were posted out of Kuje prison same day of the attack. APC complicit in the attack, PDP alleges. ADC presidential candidate Kachuku urges Buhari to resign over worsening insecurity. Akeredolu condemns attack on Buhari's convoy. It says state police solution to security. 100 days in captivity, family of freight train victims protest. These are all the riders beneath the major story on the flagship this morning. And we have the major belts there below the name marks. Buhari, OPEC, industry stakeholders mourn Barkindo's sudden death. Kenyan court freezes Flutterwave account orders over alleged money laundering. That story you'll find on page 2 of The Guardian. And directly below the major picture there, which is coming from the Kuje attack, you'll find drama as NACOM chair is prevented from traveling to Saudi Arabia over stranded pilgrims. That story is on page 4. Boris Johnson faces uncertainty as over 30 members of government resign. Amazing. Court acts to stop APC INEC from replacing Masari as Tinubu's running mate. That story is on page 2. And NAVJET reportedly bombs Katsina community. And that story you will find on page 30. These are the major stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, the next newspaper we're looking at this morning is the Daily Independent, and it carries this headline: Jailbreak, Buhari queries security structure at Kuje prison. And it comes with these riders: expresses shock at level of destruction. 4 dead, 443 inmates recaptured. DCP Abakari, others VIPs still in custody. And ISWAP claims responsibility for attack. These are the riders under the major headline of the Daily Independent. Then we switch now to politics. APC VP candidate Tinubu stuck between El Rufai and Shetima. And it has this rider: party chieftains ask court to stop APC INEC from replacing Masari. Other stories here: Buhari shuffles cabinet, swears in 7 ministers on page 7. Federal government targets 720 billion naira from bond issuance in Q3. And impeachment: embattled Oyo deputy governor knows fate July 26. 2 die in Lagos boat mishap, and courts grants Okorocha permission to travel abroad for medical care. And right there at the top of the page, renegotiated agreement. We have done our part. FG delaying reopening of universities, says ASU. And again, FG accuses marketers of orchestrating fuel crisis. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
We'll move on straight to the Sun newspaper, the Daily Sun. And in keeping with the tradition of the other papers we have reviewed this morning, the major headline here, of course, is still staying with the Kuje attack. Aftermath of Kuje prison attack, fears in Abuja over Boko Haram inmate escape. Minister says 879 prisoners on the run, 443 others recaptured, 4 confirmed dead, 16 injured. Attack outcome of government refusal to listen to my advice, Gumi. And right there is the belt below the name marks. 2 adopted Catholic priests in Edo regain freedom. That's a delightful one, I'm sure, to the Catholic community. Obi replies Kwankwaso on link to IPOB, reminds NNPP presidential candidate of activities of Boko Haram bandit kidnappers in the north, says agitation product of leadership failure. We have pictures there of the wanton destruction that was left behind by the attack on the Kuje prison. U.S. raises the alarm on possible spike in crime, terrorist attack in and around Abuja. Urges nationals to avoid travel on airport road in the next 2 weeks. UK asks citizens to be security conscious. This does not make the situation any better, I guess. I am disappointed at our intelligence system, Buhari declares after visiting Kuje prison. You find that story on page 6. Impeachment. Court fixes July 26 for judgment in suit filed by Deputy Governor as Oyo Assembly directs CJ to set up investigative panel. President reshuffle cabinet, assigns new ministers portfolio, reassigns Mamora, Ikazo, Sambo, and Saraki. NLC reiterates call for upward review of worker salary. That story is on page 26. Ekwere Madu Court orders NMIC to submit David Ukpo's biodata to the Attorney General of the Federation. That story is on page 4. Governors lament dwindling inflow into FAC. Warns they may soon not be able to pay workers' salary. And we have a belt there below. FG Kalu orders Mon OPEC Secretary General Bakindu. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Sun.
The next newspaper we're taking a look at is the Nigerian Tribune, and of course it carries the major headline, Kuje prison attack, ISWAP claims responsibility, 64 Boko Haram members escape. And it carries these riders, 5 killed, 443 inmates at large. Abakari Darie Nyame safe in custody, and it also carries a quote there from the president when he was expressing his disappointment with the security apparatus. Still talking security, terrorists threaten to start killing kidnapped Abuja Kaduna train passengers. That is another headline on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And well, moving on now to politics. APC delegates ask court to stop Masari replacement as Tinubu running mate. And Buhari, Silva, OPEC mourn as Barikindo dies at 63, buried in Yola. Well, another grim headline right here on the front page of the Nigeria Tribune reads, fuel queues to remain until full deregulation, says the federal government, and blames rising diesel costs on Russia-Ukraine war. Average daily petrol consumption now 60 million litres, Pengerson tells reps. And the belts on top of the nameplate. Ekweremadu court orders NIMSI to supply David Ukpo's biodata to account AGF for onward transmission to UK court. Impeachment. Oyo Assembly directs Chief Judge to set up probe panel on Deputy Governor, and court fixes July 26th for judgment. Another headline on the front page of the Tribune reads, again, peace effort on Osun PDP crisis suffers setback. Okoa mulls fresh plans. Party holds grand rally in Osogbo today. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
And moving on now to the Blueprint newspaper, also staying with happenings in Kuje. Investigation, how intelligence failure, insiders conspiracy led to Kuje jailbreak. Terrorists hit facility in their hundreds. Buhari alarmed, raises posers on defense failure. All Boko Haram detainees escaped, according to the federal government. NSCDC officers, 4 inmates killed, 578 recaptured. Terrorism can't stop president foreign trip. That's according to the presidency. Amazing. Right beside the nameplate, you have NEF tackles APC PDP over presidential running mates. And we have other stories there. Dangote customers to enjoy 1 billion naira in new promo. We have other stories there. Serve with diligence, loyalty. Buhari charges new ministers. Insecurity. RFI inaugurates early warning strategy committee in Southern Kaduna. You have this and many more if you pick up the front page of the Blueprint newspaper.
All right, well, that's the much we can take from the headlines this morning on the papers. We'll take a short break, and when we return, our resident newspaper analyst is right here in the studio to help us dissect some of these headlines. So do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that
Not necessarily tribal or religious.
Good morning and welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. It is that time when we delve straight into the analysis of the issues as captured by the major newspaper. And we have with us our regular reviewer today, looking bright and all sparky, our own delectable general editor of the Daily Trust newspaper, Malam Hamza Idris. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
What a fitting time to have Mr. Malam Hamza, well, Mr. and Malam, I will continue to alternate that in the studio, because most of the papers today seem to be dominated by issues that border on security. And you know he's a disaster expert. Well, not in the frame of the disaster minister. And he will be able to give us some very deep and insightful analysis of this issue. I mean, we all saw the Kuje train attack. I was reading all kinds of reports before the papers really helped us unravel all of the issues around it. Kuje prison is just 22 kilometers from the airport, which is another critical facility in the FCT. Before you come into the FCT, there is a major military checkpoint. There is also a major military barrack now beginning to develop right opposite the University of Abuja. So you wonder how these people, with the kind of numbers we hear, could have coordinated this, well, in the words of Lai Mohammed, fantastic attack, if you like, on a facility like Kuje. What's your take?
Some people, they are expressing shock and surprises, but not us here in Daily Trust, because we predicted this, not because of guesswork, but we are also intelligent people. We look at the trajectory, we look at happenings, we raise the alarm that if the neighboring states are not safe, Abuja will never be safe. We reported this, and people in the corridors of power were not happy with us. But we keep saying, if you have issues around Nasarawa borders, you have issues around Niger, you have issues around Kaduna, these are contiguous states, and you've been having security breaches. So it's just a matter of time. And we also reported that they wanted to embarrass the federal government. Now, what more embarrassment are you looking for? Kuje prisons, you have all sorts of criminals there, high profile criminals. But apart from the architectural design, it is meant to be a medium security facility. But you have all sorts of high profile Boko Haram, those arrested many years back, and then those that were arrested of recent. And based on our findings, they targeted that place for many reasons. Number one, show of force. Number two, to embarrass the federal government. And most importantly, to release their people. You know, the same set of people were those who attacked the Abuja Kaduna bound train and abducted some people. Over 3 months now, they are with them. And underground, there have been talks, but personally, I know that the talks will not lead to anywhere. Yes, because the federal government says it would not actually agree to the terms, which is fair enough. But if you want to do things like this, you should do it from position of strength. Meaning the terrorists should know that you have superior power. I'm sorry to say this. All over the world now, people believe that the terrorists have an edge. And the advantage they have now has multiplied by more than 1,000%. Yes, because with the invasion of the Kuje prison, and they have set out all the captives, especially because they had their targets. When they went there, it's not that they did a guesswork. No, it was a well-planned invasion, and then they went to the strategic places, blew them up, and then tactically exited with their members. So for now, you know, I saw a report where families of victims of the attack calling on the federal government to release their loved ones. Now, how can the federal government do that? That's all the silent question. So, above all what they are saying, the bottom line is that the terrorists now have an edge over us, and it's really sad.
Yeah, well, we'll circle back to that, because that's going to form the fulcrum of our discussion on the program this morning. So let's move slightly away from that now and talk about something that is actually bothering Nigerians a lot. I know Sunday is very, very much affected by this. Field queues, they're still here. And we are seeing some reports on the front pages of the dailies telling us that the queues will remain until the sector is completely deregulated, meaning there's no end in sight for us. What's your take on this?
Government has been deceiving the people, and the people have been living on false hope. Yes, he is a business reporter, and we read business stories. The model is not there. We are actually deceiving ourselves. 60 or more years down the line, we are still talking about building, fixing refineries. We're talking about, look at the euphoria after the PIA, petroleum industry, was passed. And then just 2 weeks ago, what did the president say? That it's not really time for Nigeria to remove fuel subsidy. And now some people are telling you they regulate. I think they have maybe mic phobia, that whoever picks the microphone will just, be confused, and they say all sorts of things. Those who have traveled, I have traveled widely, and I know that there are many countries that they don't even have the oil, but they are now supplying it to us. Because they will come and buy the crude, they will go there, refine it, extract
value.
In fact, it is like free to them. I said this here, 2006, I was at Apti University, and then I interviewed one petroleum engineer, a white fellow. He said Nigeria is just dashing this country its crude. When we claim that, is it 100 or 60 or whatever, he said they're just giving us peanuts. Because if you see what they extract from it, apart from the main petroleum product, it's really disgusting. Yes. And you ask, is it that we cannot even borrow to build the refineries? Or there is a deliberate sabotage? So I don't trust what they are saying. Because a few months ago, they said it was because we imported adulterated, or that was what caused the breach, and it will be resolved within a month. After some time, now they started blaming
The Russian.
Ukraine. Later, they will say there is war in Cameroon. It's not true. We are just really not ready for nationhood. This is the summary of it, because people laugh at us that at this level we've been having this, oil and gas for decades, but up to now we can't, even get the product to fuel our vehicles, to, fuel industries that will generate employment, and we can't even, fuel our power grids to supply electricity. So why do we even have the products in the first place? You see, so it's really sad, and people should be responsible. If you are given a task, you should do it. You see, I read it somewhere. Someone was analyzing that you can't dismiss the president from all this mess, because look at that time when he was Minister of Petroleum. Was it during Gowon?
Yes.
He has been in the mainstream oil sector up till this time. Now, what will he tell Nigerians in his memo about the mess in the petroleum? Because if you have been part and parcel of it, directly or indirectly, because even during Abacha, they gave him
PTF.
PTF. If I were him, I would just build some refineries that time. Of course, he has done his best, because as I said, it was during his time when depots were established and all that. But are the depots working now? You have to now take the product from Lagos to Maiduguri, destroying the roads. You can't even pass it. I was shocked in Switzerland when I saw a train at the airport, train navigated, with more than 40 cargos, because it was just passing. And there were trailer, trucks loaded with petroleum, with their tires and all that. I think they are the ones that we buy at Stockholm to bring them here. But they don't allow these trucks
To ply the road.
Yes, apart from the fact that they have these depots across, now maybe intra-city, they now use train to take these trucks, so that from the substations, they only, drive few kilometers to these charge points. And that is why you see, they're not even talking about roads, because they have built them to standard, and for hundreds of years, they don't really need to do anything there. But I hope that maybe our leaders will have a second thought, because they also travel and they see what is happening, that we get it right here.
True. Talking about traveling, I think we have one of the most traveled presidents in the world. Every time his spokesperson will come back and they will tell us takeaway from the United States. I hope there are real takeaways that Nigerians can see from this trip.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a sad day. We all woke up, having processed several news materials and statements from Bakindo to his visit to the president and the plans of OPEC to increase Nigeria's or most countries' output and all. But the next morning, he had gone to be with his creator. Yeah. He was looking quite healthy and full of life, very cerebral, one of Nigeria's finest. He was one time the Caesar of our own national oil company, and he moved on to the international quotas where he had done creditably well, and we were hoping, according to the words of the president, to welcome him back with pomp and pageantry sometimes later this month, and the Supreme Being called him to himself.
Day before, that was that Tuesday, right?
Yes.
It was really tough for us in the newsroom, because initially during the day we had our lead. We finished before 8. Then suddenly the killing of the assistant commissioner of police in Katsina, the story came up. We quickly started, yes, and then the attack on the president's convoy. So and then we rounded up when the Kuje something happened. We were able to have some paragraphs, yes. So we close in the morning, let me put it mildly. So when we came for review yesterday, our deputy news editor, because he saw the Barkindo story, full of smile, when he visited the president. And then we started saying this man was gone. I saw the shock, on his face. How? Because it's like the man died less than 10 hours after his meeting with the president. They are yet to formally announce this, but they said actually heart failure. But this goes to show you the ephemeral nature of life. And it's so transient that while you are thinking of,
tomorrow and the day after.
You just, die. If you're talking about the people who lived a fulfilled life, definitely you cannot maybe count 10 without, especially in northern part of Nigeria, because he has been in corridors of power for a very long time, good job and all that, and he was full of life, but you can see. So it's a big message, as I said earlier, that do your best while you have the opportunity, because tomorrow might not come. Yes, we are all sad with his demise, just the way we are sad with the assistant commissioner of police. We pray God will grant him al-Jannah and the family to bear the irreparable loss. But we lost an immense talent there. Yes, he's just rounding up his tenure at OPEC and maybe thinking of coming back home. Maybe to join politics or something else, but he's gone. Yeah.
Well, it is quite sad indeed. One other issue that has generated a lot of comments or controversy, is this controversy surrounding the power distribution companies. Some have been taken over, some by commercial banks, others by AMCON, and there's been some restructuring here and there, new boards being inaugurated for these power distribution companies. A lot of people will point fingers at those power distribution companies for the current mess that we're in right now when it comes to the power sector, even though a lot of people have their own arguments despite that. What does this portend, this new takeover and all these, what does it portend for the power sector? Are there any changes that we expect?
I am not expecting any change, because you see in 2030, right, when they privatize and give most of these licenses to this discourse, do they do the right thing? Who are the owners? When you look at the owners, they were the people in the corridors of power at that time. Some, if you bring screwdriver to them, they will ask you what they will do with it. Because they have nothing to do with engineering. They have nothing to do with, power distribution or whatever. But simply because they were in a privileged position, they grab all the licenses to themselves. And it's not wrong if you do it the right way, because you mustn't read mass communication to be a journalist, but you must have passion for journalism to now venture into because it's a tough terrain. So you mustn't read, but if you have passion. Now these people, do they really have passion to turn around power fortune in Nigeria? I think it's just about the gains. So they got it, and then instead of also investing to get the right people, because as I said, you can establish a hospital even if you are not a medical doctor, but if you get the finest doctors, nurses, lab scientists and all that, and you stay strictly to the rules, you will get it right. But these same people, after acquiring it, they put their children, you know, their nephews and all that, their cronies, to manage something they don't have knowledge of. And that is why we are where we are. And then they borrowed money, right? Apart from the money they borrowed, what about intervention from government? But up to now, you're talking about meters. What kind of country is this, please? Mala Ibrahim. So, Fidelity, you know, UBA took over Abuja last year. Now, this week, Fidelity taking over, they are taking over Kaduna, Kano, and Benin. But the owners, you can't be an owner if you are heavily indebted.
Unfortunate. One last one before we let Bala Hamza go for the day. We saw that unfortunate report coming in from Uyo, the invasion of female hostels of corps members who were raped. Sometimes you think you have heard it all in this country, and then something else happens, and it just, I mean, your daughter, wherever she is, you think is there to provide service to her country, and should be provided the maximum protection, and then you hear stories like this. How do you feel as a father, you know, when you get this kind of news?
Sad, frightened, and depressed. Yes, because you see, some of these atrocities are not really for the fun of it. Many youths in Nigeria, they have lost hope in the system, and they have submitted their lives to juju men who will now tell them to go and do awkward things. How will you go and rape? We still have another story there. Somebody went and raped his 85-year-old stepmom. Now, how will you reconcile this? And probably somebody told him that he should rape her, he will be rich. So even these miscreants who invaded the corps members' lodge, you know, maybe they were high on drugs. It may not be for spiritual purposes. Yeah, but you can see they robbed them, and then they saw the opportunity to actually rape them. Yeah, but is there any joy in that? I'm sure they did what they did under the influence of drugs, and this calls for more effort in actually, and they're doing well. Yes, but we need to do more so that youths will not have access to some of these drugs that actually, you know, take them off the world. They become something else to perpetrate all sorts of crimes. But it is really sad. You can see why some parents are saying they will not allow their children to go beyond the gate of their house to serve. Some of us, I served in Akwa Ibom State, you know, over 20 years ago, and in a Christian-dominated community, in a church school, and up till today, I am happy with what I'm doing, because I met wonderful people. Some of the students we taught those days, they are also now graduates. Yes, they are working in place, and we have established, you know, serious relationship. I cited an example here that a friend, I mean, a student I taught there, when he was to get married, to a lady who also went to Akwa Ibom to get married, you know, from Plateau. His parents said that he has to prove that she's the right person. And then he said his teacher, who taught him, is also from Plateau, because I was born and brought up. But you know the irony, this young girl is a Christian from Southern Plateau, but in Akwa Ibom, myself and her were seen as the same. And he brought her here, these premises. He came with her, said that I want to marry this lady, so I want to know more about her. So you can see how important NYSC was in those days. It was meant to actually heal the wounds of the civil war, to bring Nigeria together. But now, parents are afraid to actually release their, and rightly. How will you now allow your daughter to go somewhere that you cannot actually guarantee her safety? I hope we get it right.
All right. Well, that's quite grim indeed. Well, we just hope that things actually get better. Well, as I will wrap up the analysis of the papers on Daybreak this morning, but Mala Hamza will remain with us. We're going to keep him here for a little while longer, as he will form part of the main thrust of our discussion this morning on Daybreak. So do stay with us. We will be right back.